What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video in our Tag Mixer plugin series. If you haven't subscribed yet, hey, subscribe, will ya? And if you already have, I appreciate you. Anyway, so what we're going to do now is we're going to continue on from where we just left off, which was we went ahead and added new source keys. I just showed how we just went through this form, and now we need to go through this form, which is if somebody wants to delete a YouTube or the YouTube key and they go delete it, we have to destroy it. So let's go ahead and get to that right now. It's actually pretty simple. So back in here, we need to go up to our form. This is that one here that contains the, oh no, that's the main switch, sorry. This form here, the one that contains our source keys, our existing source keys. And we have to do something a little different here, which is once again inside of our form. We do not have an action or anything so far. So the action is going to equal nothing. And the method is going to equal get, as usual. Now, the very first thing inside the form group is, can you guess it? Yeah, we need to add the page. Same variable, a hidden value, that hidden variable that hides off in the background. We need that in here too, because the page needs to append. It has to re-append this, otherwise it will not work. So it has to do that every time you submit a form in any administrative page. So that's the first thing it's going to send back through is a page variable, the name page and the of the cur page, which we set in the last video. And then it's going to send through whatever option the user has selected. Now, remember, if there's no options, it equals no source keys created. If there is an option, it will be the name. Actually, it's going to contain this full string, right? It's going to have the post title and the / and the key. Well, if we want the user to be able to have multiple named items that are the same, like multiple YouTubes but different keys, we could do that. What we need to really look for is this key and delete it. We can't allow more than one of those of each kind. They need to be unique. So that means we can easily find those and delete those. All right, so now that we have this here using a get, it has the value of coming back to the same page, and it's going to post back with that content. Let's go ahead and just refresh this page. And then let's pick an item like YouTube Custom, hit delete, and you're going to see up here it's going to append it, but nothing's happening. So right now it's appending the page, it's doing that properly, and it's saying existing source key, YouTube, and the Y customs. Okay, so we need to grab this and do something with it. Well, back up top where we created our action block, we can go ahead and create a new section. And we can say, this section handles deleting existing keys. Now, one thing is these existing keys are going to continue to persist within our package sets, and I'll show you a workaround for that later. We'll make a button that goes through and fixes that, or maybe we'll make this function do that. It'll go through all of those custom posts and fix it, but that's a little ways ahead and could be a little confusing. So at the moment, we're just going to stick to this. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make a really, really simple section that handles that. And in order to do that, all we have to do is like we did up top. We have to say if, and we have to say is set. This is very simple as well. Underscore get. And then the variable we're looking for in the URL is existing source keys. If that is sent through, that means the user has submitted the drop down of an existing source key and clicked delete. That's the only way that that would appear in the URL. So now I need to say, we have a couple things here that I want to point out. The first thing is the user could potentially submit the form with this in it. Or I'm sorry, not with that. With, let me go back down and show you. With no source keys created. Trust me, users love to do things they're not supposed to. It's like their favorite thing. They love it. Anytime you build software, the first thing the user does is everything they're not supposed to do. How do I know? Because that's what I do. So even somebody who programs, my favorite thing to do is do everything that the programmer never expected me to do. But the first thing the user is going to do is they're going to clunk in here and they're going to go, ha, 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 ha. Oh, click this button, even though it has nothing in it. So we need to counteract that first and foremost. How do we do that? Check to see if there is an actual item, then do the stuff. We're going to say if that get variable is, and I'll do that in just a second, I'm just going to copy it, is equal to that. If existing source keys of value, if the value of this equals no source keys created, that means the user submitted it with no source keys. So guess what we're going to do? We're going to do nothing. This is just going to exit. It's not going to do anything. Else, That means the value is something else. This is a key we need to remove because the user put something actual in there. All right. Does that make sense to you? It should. I mean, so that's just simple error checking on our part. You know, we need to be a little bit smart about that because the user's never going to let us off the hook if we don't. All right, so the very first thing we need to do is we need to use a PHP function that if you've never used before, it kind of sounds interesting. You have to use an explode function, and all that does is a fancy word for splitting a string. Now, why do we have to do that? Well, if you look at the way the string gets inputted, how do we grab this? Because that's what we need. We don't need the whole thing. We just need this. And as our string is formatted, look inside the box. We have YouTube, a space, a forward slash, a space, and then the key. We need the key. We don't need the rest of this garbage. So how do we get that? All right, here's how we do that. We're going to create a new variable. We're going to call this stir source, and we're going to say it equals, and we're going to write a PHP function called explode. And explode takes two parameters. The first one it needs is what you're going to split with. What's your delimiter? In this case, it's a space, a forward slash, and a space. It's going to split our string once it finds that into two separate parts. And what's it splitting? The get variable, the source key that got sent. So it's going to look for this and split this string based on that into separate array boxes. That's perfect. That's exactly what we need. And as you know, as you can see back here, so if it looks through the string and it goes, okay, I'm looking for it, I found it, split. Here's an item number 2. So remember, programming starts at 0, not 1, guys. So arrays start 0, 1, 2. They don't start 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's just not the way arrays and programming work. They always start at 0. So at item 0 is going to contain the word YouTube. At item 1 is going to contain the API, or the key, which is what we need. So now that we have that, deletion is only moments away. All right, so what we're going to do is we're actually going to steal some code from down below because we're lazy. And we're going to take that from right here. We need to gather all of the posts that have our source keys. And we have to cycle through them and find the one to delete. So we're going to do this, but instead of calling it source keys, I'm actually just going to change it to, I think, how about deletion keys? That's fine. So, and it's getting the post type of our custom source keys. Now we're going to say find and delete the key. And so what do we need to do? We need to make another for each similar to all of our other for eaches. And it's going to say for each post in our custom post, because remember, this just grabbed all those custom posts, as, and let's just call this one like a D key or something like delete key or something like that. All right, and so in here we need to say, this is very simple. First things first, get this key's ID. We need to get its database ID. So we're just going to make a variable called the ID, and we're going to make it equal dkey ID. This is all posts in WordPress by default have an ID, which is a number established in the database, so it can be referenced to, and this is going to help us delete it if it's the right post. So if it's not, it's just going to keep changing this ID every time the for each cycles until it finds it. So here's what we need to do. One more if statement. It's like if statement city in here, I know, but so we need to say if the D key, this is the current one being cycled, and we need the post content. Remember, guys, that we stored the key, this key, and the content, and we stored the name and the title. We don't care about the name, so we need the content. So we need to say if this current post that we're cycling through content is equal, two equals. Remember, if you do one equal, it tries to make it equal to it. If it equals, and remember, we just split, we exploded the get variable into 2. So we have the current one that the user selected and went delete. We have it up here because we just used an explode function to split it. So we have it right here in stir source, and we open it like an array with square brackets, and we put 1, because remember what I explained is that the item, the split string, this is the most important part, is going to contain 2 items because we delimited it with this. If you look back at our front end, that's how it's delimited right here. That's how we made it store it in our database, or how we output it. So that's how it, not in our database, sorry, that's how it comes through as a key. So it's going to split it based on that. We're going to have 2 items, the name and this. And what we need to do is we need to break it and grab the second item. But remember, programming starts at 0, so it's actually at 1 is the second item. If those are equal to each other, this is the item, so destroy it. Strong words, but that's what we want to do. We want to just destroy it. So Here's how we do that. This is extremely simple. WP delete, but you never saw this one coming. And what does this require? It requires the ID. And remember, I just said that we're getting that each time it goes. So it gathered the ID of this current D key, and then it compared and said if the current key is equal to it, we need to delete something. We already have the ID because we got it up top for this. We could have put this code anywhere, but I decided to put it up here. So that's the first parameter it takes. The second one is if you force deletion, true. We want to force delete. We want to make sure under any circumstances it deletes it, and that's that. Now I think as this should work as is, okay? So heading back to our other end now, we should be able to refresh this, or not refresh it. Let's just hit YouTube again and hit delete this key. The page should load. There it is. YouTube is gone. And now we have Facebook FB name. Let's delete that too. Now we have no source key created because remember, our loop down here automatically defaults, it checks how many source keys do we have. We don't have any. Okay, no source keys created. If it has some, it will output them, and then we error check this too if dumb user decides to do this, because they're always called dumb user in programming because users do dumb things, and that's it. See that? So it says no source keys created, but nothing is happening. Now, of course, a user could manipulate this and try and put in all kinds of different strings and stuff like that, but that's not going to matter because it's not going to find anything based on our code. So I think I'm going to wrap it up right there, guys, because that's it. This page is now fully functional. The only thing it's not doing is duplicate checking, which I'll probably do in the next one. I'll probably make a short, like 5 or 10 minute video about duplicate checking because it is important and we just want to get ahead. And the fact that this is going to be submitted to the WordPress repository, I need to actually check stuff like that. So anyway, hey, like I said in the beginning of our video, if you aren't subscribed, hey, just go ahead and subscribe, will you? And if you're already subscribed, I appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one where we go ahead and check for duplicates. So I'm pretty excited about this series, and I think it's going pretty good so far. But I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one.